Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Learning from Leaders series. As always, I'm joined by Peter, and I don't think I need to introduce him again. Today, we have the immense privilege to have the country director of Google, Belgium and Luxembourg, Mr. Thierry Geerts. We had the immense pleasure to welcome him already last year in Munich, and today he's coming back because he really enjoyed his session with our students. So, Mr. Geerts, welcome. Peter, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Luc, and it's good to see everyone again on this beautiful summer day it is in our last series, Learning from Leaders episode in this first series. Amazing to end this series with Thierry Geerts. Thierry, the head or the country director of Google in Belgium and Luxembourg. Thierry, the question that everyone wants to know is, of course, as we meet, how are you personally, but also how's the company?
Well, I'm working from home, and I will be doing so till the end of the year, which is quite special because although it was possible for us to work from home already before the COVID, I didn't really work a full day at home before. I was also spending all my day on video conferencing. If you would have asked me before COVID, what are you doing during the day? I was probably saying, well, most of the time I'm in VC. But now it's really being on VC.
VC video conference. You were already somebody that often was in Google Meets, I suppose.
You know, we have 100,000 employees all over the world, and they collaborate as if they were in one office. So we were connected on video conferencing already for all kinds of meetings. We were only going to the office or going to travel to meet people, and then we were having people stuff. We were never traveling to discuss a budget or to do operational stuff. That would be done by VC, but we were meeting to connect. And so we're missing, and I definitely missed the human touch. And I think technology helped us through this crisis. We were able to work from home and to study from home, but technology didn't have the ambition to replace the human factor.
Right.
And so that's still what we will have to learn is how do we connect as human if we cannot meet in person.
Now to know quite specifically, you work for Google. This is a global company based in Mountain View, California, but of course offices all over the world. Usually you would meet at least with the people that are in your section in Belgium, in the Belgian offices. What, like 90% of the time you'd be in the office if you weren't traveling, or how was it and how is it now?
A big part of my job was representing Google outside of the office. So I was a lot in policy meetings, meetings with customers, talking to students. So I would say 1/3 was in video conferencing with a lot of people. 1/3 was connecting with the outside world. And then I would be traveling for 1/3 because yes, we have to connect. And then I would go, for example, with customers to Mountain View. And we couldn't go to customers to Mountain View now anymore. So we did some summits in Belgium, and it worked really, really well because we were able to have international speakers just speaking to our Belgian customers in a more personal way than if you would go with 50 customers to Mountain View. So there are a lot of, it's a switch, but sometimes it's even better.
Right. Now, very concretely, global policy of Google, what is it? Working from home, working in the office, something in between?
No, all work from home till the end of the year.
Everyone around the world who works for Google works from home.
Yeah, there are some exceptions. We started with the people that really need to be in the office. So, for example, people working on hardware, they need to touch the hardware and work with the hardware. They can now go back to the office since the 1st of July, and they will be doing so till the end of the year. But all the people that, our work can be done at distance. We are fully digital as a company, except the smartphones and the Nest hubs that we are selling. Everything is digital. So in a way, we can operate completely our system, our business completely digital. And
right.
so,
and you would expect, of course, from any company, if there's any company in the world that could work online, it would have to be one of those big tech companies. So that makes sense, right? But how was it before? I mean, like I'm sure that when you look at Google in Mountain View, beautiful headquarters, now what, 90% empty?
Yeah, our offices are quite spooky. So I was in the office in Brussels. We have an amazing office, brilliant, with the nicest coffee machine and whatever you can dream of to have a funny place. And now it's almost empty. So that's spooky, but it's not a problem for the business. So on short term, we capitalize
because of course
on
you are a fully online business. Now, I suppose different countries, different situations. We will be talking to a couple of students from EU Business School in a little bit. Some of them, as we'll hear, are right in front of me or right above me. Some of them are at their homes. Some of them are at another part of the world. That's usually not a problem, because if you're a student, you are mobile. Now, when you're working for a company, the culture always was you're at the culture, you're at the office. So now with COVID, that was put on hold for 3 months. Very understandable. There's some countries, I think probably some countries in Asia that are quite safe, that are quite COVID-free. I suppose Australia or New Zealand, countries like South Korea, Singapore, and so on and so forth. So also there, everyone's still at home.
Yeah, we believe that we have to take our responsibility, and we can work from home. So let's do that as much as we can. Even if the countries that you mentioned are not, it's not sure that they will not have a second peak. And so we want to be the ones that do as much as we can for society. So we can go from home. We can take 100,000 people out of whatever place, and probably those 100,000 should be meeting 500,000 more. So by doing so, by this decision at Google, we probably contribute to 500,000 or 1 million contacts that we will not have.
Right.
And I think that
doesn't hurt your business, because you can do everything online, but it does help Google be a responsible contributor to society, because the less contact there is globally, the better for our fight against the virus. And I understand that now.
It would be better for our business to go back to office, because the office is useful for the human connection. But I think that we have to take that responsibility. We can afford it, and we are organized to do it. So let's do it, and let's leave the opportunity for other companies that really need to be in touch
to go in and have the physical contact. What do you think? I mean, people are now wondering how much of this is permanent. Do you think that you will ever go back to the full offices in Mountain View, the full offices at Google in Dublin or in Belgium, or is there something that's permanent about this?
It definitely for a part permanent. We will never go back to the situation before. A lot of it's also same for a lot of companies. A lot of companies never worked from home. It was even not allowed to work from home. And now that the employees have worked from home for 3 months, they don't want to get back to the office. They don't want to get to queue every single morning to commute to work. So at Google, we probably go back to a system where we have like 1 or 2 days a week where we meet in the office. And then you can go to the office, but the people will not go to the office.
Now,
that's possible. So the COVID has switched a lot of things. For example, we were thinking that e-commerce was sometimes a bit dangerous. And so people prefer to go to the shop. But it appears that e-commerce was safer, because if you receive your stuff at home, it just delivered at your doorstep. You are not in connection with people that can give you the virus. So a lot of things were stripped. So digital become the safe solution and the easy solution, and working from home is easier. It's easier to combine your work-life balance at home than it being in a 2 hours commute every single day. And so it was really a flip of the way of thinking, even at Google, even the company that was completely digital.
That's right.
Had a kind of flip, yeah.
Now, was it for you? Because 2 years ago, you wrote a book about this world, not about the world with the virus, but you did write a book about the idea of a world in which we're almost digitally native, in which you call it digitalis, the world in which mostly everything happens online. So for you, is this the future that you envisioned?
Well, obviously not the negative part and the thing that
Sure.
people from the pandemic. But if you take that aside, I say that digitalis won 5 years in 3 months' time. So everything that was in the book happened now. It was possible before the crisis. More e-commerce, working from home, learning at distance was always possible, was described in the book. And now in 3 months' time, it becomes a reality. So the good news is nothing was wrong in the book. It's exactly what we're experimenting now. But it was forced in a way that is quite negative with the crisis.
Yeah. And for people to know, because, and I showed a book here, Digitalis, I have a copy here, people that want to buy it online. So for people that weren't with us last year when we talked about the book, but essentially your belief is that indeed, or your belief was that we were going to see in 5 years' time or so, much more digital transactions still. Of course, the continued rise of e-commerce, but also many other industries moving online. And that's the part that played out now. As you say, instead of in 5 years, it played out really much in 3 months.
Yeah. So I call it digitalis because it's the new country where we all live in. And so if you think that you're living in Munich, in Zurich, or Bolivia, well, no, we all live in digitalis. And digitalis is a new country with 4 billion people, 4 million inhabitants connected with each other thanks to the internet. And thanks to that, you can do other stuff. And if you think at your daily life, that's exactly how you experience the life. You can receive a mail from Singapore and you can receive an answer in a minute. You receive your goods from another country. But the general thinking is not like that. So policy people and a lot of companies are still stuck in a prior world.
In the 19th century world almost, in which, because of course you describe a digital world in which, you say you can send an email in a second and it gets from here to Singapore. But then, you pointed out, you also have the real world in which actually trade is going down, physical travel, obviously now also going down. Many people talk about de-globalization, but you're saying, well, that's true, but you have two worlds. And in the physical world, you have this deglobalization, and in the digital world, so you have the globalization, and in the real world, you have deglobalization.
So I would prove it with just one example. During COVID, the people were watching Netflix, that's from US, and the people were on TikTok, which is a Chinese app. So that didn't change at all. In the opposite, those two brands went to the roof. But for the e-commerce, you probably don't want to have goods delivered from China in Europe. So e-commerce transformed to more European business. So for the physical things, so traveling around, what I was saying also in digitalis, it probably will not be possible to continue to travel around with planes. We will have to get that down. And indeed, you see that. So less travel, less e-commerce transatlantic. But for Europe, they definitely will happen more within Europe.
So, is that also what you saw, Thierry? I mean, like, of course, you run a search engine. You search. You also run an online shop, if you will, or at least a store. Is that what you've seen? That people go more online to buy things, but they are sourced more locally?
Yeah, look at the two companies big companies on travel, which is Booking.com and Airbnb. They switched completely their model. So they had a model to find a hotel room out of Brussels in Singapore, and they flew that completely now for local vacancies. So you can go in a hotel in the Ardennes in Belgium, or you can go nearby. And that saved them because their business was completely down in the beginning of the COVID. And then they swapped it to more local, like in the same continent. And that was a very, very successful strategy.
Right. And so that's what happened. Now, let's talk about Google, because, of course, the impact was great on every country also, or every company also on Google. I would think I spend a lot more time online, so I'm doing a lot of more searches online. So I'm probably helping Google do much better in terms of numbers. But there's another side to that medal too, isn't there? Because Google does depend for a big part on advertising. Many companies are suffering, doing less advertising. What was the net effect of these two opposing factors?
Yeah, so our services went through the roof. More search, more YouTube, more cloud computing than ever. And I think that's what we are very proud of.
Ever. So really at an all-time high.
YouTube plus 60%. So you can imagine on the volumes that YouTube is running.
We're talking about trillions of views.
Yeah, it's like if you have to run that in data centers, it's just crazy. But anyway, we handled it. The video conferencing through a Hangout is going times 30. So you imagine the volumes that you have to process. On search, the people search us as crazy for COVID, for example. What is it? How can it be safe? How can it be cured? But on our business side, we are depending on revenues. The biggest company is advertising. And our biggest customer is Booking.com, because Booking.com is using search all over the world. And so it's a very big customer. And that went really down. Now, it will not that much down than from such local media companies, because we are running business for them. So if you're looking during the COVID, you were looking for how can I keep my kids busy during the COVID, and the people were searching for something to have in the garden so that the children could play with. That went in positive side. So our revenue went down in general, but it flipped from travel, for example, to more local stuff. People were looking for computers, for example, to work from home. They were looking for a new chair, and so there was a lot of business to do during COVID, but a completely other type of business that was before. And Google can swap very easily. You know, if you would run a normal media and advertising campaign, you have to plan it in advance. In Google, it's real time, so you can adapt your products you're selling. You can adapt your campaigns. You can switch everything.
Right. And obviously, Google is an agile company. It is known to be an agile company. So it had some negative effects, but was able to adapt very quickly. Now, some other companies were less fortunate. A lot of countries in particular have taken on a lot of debt. And so looking farther ahead in the future, a question that we'll certainly need to answer, we'll have to do it as a society, is how are we going to pay for all this, right? And one of the questions, of course, that will come up at some point, I think you know what I'm getting at, is will companies, including big tech companies, be contributing also on that front, on the tax front? Because that's one of the big criticism that you've had, of course, in recent years. How do you think that will go going forward, and how do you look at it as a responsible company?
We are asking for years to review the tax system. We are strongly believing that it's not the right way to tax companies for the moment. I mean, it's not a question of tech or not tech. It's just that it's for global companies, it's too easy to do shopping and to search for the place to be where you pay less taxes. And so it's the same for international oil companies, it's the same for luxury goods, and it's the same for Google. It's just not right. And Google is the first tech company to say very vocally, we want to be taxes also in Europe, but it has the governments need to adapt the rules, because if you can just by the rule not pay tax in Europe, why should you? It's important to know that we pay 20% tax on a global level. So it's not that we don't pay taxes. We don't pay them on the right place. And that's a question of governments to agree on new tax systems. And if we do that for Google, we will have the solution also for tens of thousands of international companies that are using just the same systems as we do, because they are official. They're not illegal at all. But we don't want to be a company like that. We want to be socially responsible. But you cannot.
Where do you think that reputation comes from, Thierry? Because, like, you know, the impression that a lot of people get is that these big tech companies are the bad guys, at least when it comes to taxes, that they are using these tax havens in Ireland, in the Cayman Islands, in other countries to avoid taxes, and that they are not seeking to get a reform of the tax system, but that on the other hand, they use a lot of their lobbying power to make sure that there are no extra taxes. So where is that disconnect from?
The problem is that the people associate digitization with some companies. You know, you call that the GAFA kind of thing. This is just not existing. Those GAFAs have completely other ways to look at it. And just be sure that we are using our lobby power to have a new tax system. We are talking to the OECD and to the European Commission since years. It's just that the countries continue to be in competition with each other. You know, each European country has a tax system to push something. So in UK, it's a tax-free system for the city, for all finance transactions. In the Netherlands, it's goodwill, which is not taxed. In Belgium, it's more like research on pharmaceuticals. And so all these countries do want to attract companies with a tax competition, which is not working out, and that has to be changed. So we completely agree that we have to change that. But
And then
it's impossible for us to just pay a tax. We cannot just phone the president of France and say, from now on, we will pay taxes. That will not work.
Not sure if he would say no, but
so UK will call, and then Finland will call, and so it's just impossible for us. But it's very annoying, and we are associated with what some other company do, and we can only explain that it's not the case.
And as a matter of fact, Thierry, you might be able to give some advice, because I think a lot of people are catching up to this idea, especially those that are working from home, often in other countries. We've got a lot of students here that are studying in one school, in one campus, and that are physically in another country. And that's actually an example of what you're talking about, which is that if you are physically in one place, but you're active digitally in another place, that creates tax confusion.
Yeah, and it's also very complicated to pay your employees. So if, for example, in Dublin, we have 5,000 young people working for Google, but during COVID, they wanted to be at home with their families. But that's impossible for tax reasons, because you cannot pay from an Irish company, pay somebody that is in Belgium. That's getting really complicated. So we have to review the system, because it's not adapted to the day of today. We work with systems that have been invented like 1 or 2 centuries ago. And business is adapting faster than tax system regulation and also our governments. And I think it's hard. It's not an easy way, but no, we have to do it. And probably for COVID is pushing that even harder.
Yeah, Thierry, those are considerations that we'll get back to in a little bit, because we've got a lot of questions already from students. And you can, by the way, if you're watching this, you can submit your questions by clicking on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and I will try to get to those questions later on. But I want to ask you, before we get to those student questions, Thierry, also a little bit more of a personal side. You are working for this company that I think many of us want to work for, and you're in a very privileged position there as the director of one of the countries. But you weren't always doing that, were you? I think you started out your career in was it industrial laundry? Is that right?
I started in industrial laundry. I didn't know at all what I wanted to do when I studied at university, and so I had to find out. There is no recipe, and so I started in the audit with PwC for 2 years, and found out that was very interesting. I learned a lot, but that was not the thing I wanted to do. And so I decided I wanted to go to work in sales, and then I looked for a job in sales, and I only found one interesting in a laundry company. It was
a real laundry company.
Laundry company, and so I started to work there, and because it was a laundry company, I was quite a special person in that laundry company, and I managed to become a general manager of an industrial laundry company when I was 27. And so I had 100 employees, trucks and machinery and whatever. But it was an American company working in Brussels. I learned a lot, but on a certain moment, I had to send my production results by mail. But you have to imagine we were in 1995. Nobody heard about the internet or mail in 1995.
I only know internet in 95 from Windows 95.
Okay, but that's not completely the same thing. And Windows was completely not online, and you have to purchase your release in boxes.
Right.
So I did send my production report to the state, and on that moment, I said I want to know more about that, and I have to reboot my career, because laundry business will not be a bright future for me. And this thing will become something. I don't know what, but I want to know more. And I applied in a media company. And I started to work in a media company in 96, but had to do a step down, because I came from a very nice general management position. And now I get in a new sector that I didn't know at all. So I had to be very humble.
Right.
I started there.
So you started off, you did a regular career in studying, then went into an unconventional, they say, the beaten path. You went off the beaten path, went to work in industrial laundry. And a couple of years in, you were like, there's this new thing called the internet, emails. And you said, well, let me try to find out more about it. You apply for, let's say, an entrepreneurial role to bring a traditional media company into the digital era, is what it was.
Yes.
And that worked out for you. just because you were curious, right? Because we're trying to understand the lesson from this, which is that, yes, you can become an industrial laundry CEO and you can become a digital CEO. The crucial point is that you're interested, that you're curious, and that you take the extra step to get there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say, well, you're lucky to be at Google, but obviously it's not luck. It's always a combination of being prepared and the opportunity that passed by. And so being prepared is very important for you as students to say, what did I have to learn? What did you have to know? What experience I can do? So that I will be ready to take a new opportunity. The opportunities, a promotion will not come from one day to another because it's a promotion. It will come because you are good at what you're doing and you have done some management course. In addition, you've learned a new language, you learned a new trick to do something. So be prepared, prepare yourself for the next step in your career, and then look for opportunities. And then people will call that luck, but it's obviously not luck.
Now you've taken that step, industrial laundry, then you go digitization of a media company, and then I'd say now you go to Google. No, that's not what happened. Actually, you went back to print media. Why was that?
Yeah, so I was in the digital world in 1999, and if for the people remembering that time, there was at that moment an overhyping of the internet. So the internet was not really very mature, but the stock markets and the companies started to believe in a future of internet, like on very short term, and so it went a bubble, and I started to find that crazy. It was we were paying multiples for companies that were like just crazy.
Yeah, and that was the so-called build up to the .com crash of internet 1.0 in 2001.
Yeah, but so 1 year in advance, I thought this is not a good thing. And in the same media company, there was an opportunity to work from print business. And I said, like, well, you know what? I go and hide from the digital business for a while, and I go to build up that print business, which was amazing. Like build up a company with 500 people and probably the biggest print brand in Belgium. And in a way, I waited there that the internet became more mature. And when it started to be real business, I went back to digital business.
And so it's surprising again. And if the goal was to become the CEO of Google, well, we have to say Google probably wasn't created then. I think it was around that time that Google came to the surface. But certainly you couldn't say, my goal is to become the CEO of a big tech company or a country director, because actually you went away again from technology. Yeah. Now, that's fine. If it's a great business, it's a great business. And if you're interested in it, then why not? Now, at some point in that journey, you said, actually, I've now had a nice career in various industries in my home country, which in your case is Belgium, but I'd like to work for an international company. I'd like to be able to work in an English-speaking environment. And you said, that's going to be difficult because I don't speak English all that well. So what did you do?
I just decided to take a course, and I paid myself a 2-week intensive English course. And you hear that my English is still not perfect, but it went from just a school English to business useful English. And so when Google called me, I was ready to do the interviews in English. But without that course that I took just in addition, I wouldn't be here.
Right. And so that's something that you do, now probably in your mid-30s in your career. A lot of people would say, like, I've done my degrees, I've done my studying, I'm done with that. But you said, no, actually, I think this is really important for me. I mean, in my case, I want to get on, and this is the one skill that I lack and that I need, and I have to make time for it.
More working at Google is studying every single week. So my world changed continuously, and I really have to study. But that's amazing. It's not. It's really interesting. I love it. It's why I'm still, after 9 years, continue to love that job. I never spend that much time in the same position before that, but I'm studying all the time. So I think that students now have to be prepared to study all their career long. And that's why it's very important that you go for your passion. You have to take something that you're really interested in, so that studying will be a fun thing. If you don't like, let's say you don't like legal, and you start as a lawyer, and you will have all your lifelong work in legal and also study on legal, that will be terrible. If you love digital marketing and you start to work in digital marketing, well, you will just have fun studying of the new tricks of digital marketing. And so finding your real passion is probably the most important, because then studying will be a normal thing.
But of course, Thierry, in your case, I suppose your passion wasn't necessarily technology, because you worked in various industries, some that had nothing to do with technology. So was your passion then entrepreneurship? What was your passion?
My goal when I studied was to be a general manager. I love to lead teams. I love to inspire a group around me, and I love to build something with that team around me. So, and in fact, that's what I found out also in the laundry. I had to motivate also blue workers to believe in what we do and to grow. And so if there is one single line in my career, is that I wanted to be a general, in a way, manager and inspire people. And then I found that this digital world gives new opportunities, new growth opportunities. And so that there was a need for inspiring people to work with that technology. And so that's why I went.
And Thierry, just to be clear, because you talk about your passion being, you know, to build a team and to do great things with that team. Of course, when you're 23, at that point, you're not the CEO of a company, even if it's a small one, you have to get there. And so in your case, if I recall, you were like, you know what, if I'm working in accounting as for one of the big four, I'm not going to get to that path very easily. And is that one of the reasons why you then went into the industrial laundry, because you could do that there?
Double. I found out that if I was in the audit, I would become a finance guy. And so you're stuck in one way. I wanted to be a general manager. So I wanted to do sales, and a combination of sales and finance would be an interesting way to have a special CV. And there, being at sales, I could, with my talent of leading people, I could take more important roles quite fast.
Can you say now that it is, on the one hand, entrepreneurship, and on the other hand, technology and the future that is your passion? Because some people are asking in this chat, how do we find our passion?
Yeah, so it's not technology. That's maybe bizarre for a guy managing Google, but I'm more passionate by humans than by technology. And the interesting thing is I'm looking at what technology is doing with us. And this is not a technological revolution, it's a human revolution. Because thanks to the internet, we can connect 4 billion people, exchange ideas, look at what we can do now. And so it's a human thing. And so I'm passionate about human. And I'm only fascinated by technology because it's helped us as human to do amazing stuff.
Right.
And so it's another view.
When did you realize that, Thierry? When did you know that it was, you know, you had a passion for teams and for other people?
In fact, I did scouting when I was young, and there I found out that it was amazing to be in a group with a team, and also there, quite young age, I took responsibility on small groups. It was just playing, but
is that one of the lessons, Thierry? Would you say that, you know, sometimes we already have the answer and we have to go look back in our life and look at the moments that we've enjoyed and where we got our energy from, and then we'll discover what that passion is?
Yes, so get back on your passion. Most of the studying in Europe is working hard, and so if you are good, you have good figures on mathematics, and you work hard. In fact, you don't like it, but you are successful. Your parents will say, "Do mathematics," but that's not the thing. You have to think about what is the thing you have fun with it, and you can have fun with chemistry or fun with legal or history. And so if you look at your childhood, probably you have also some solutions. And, but it can also come all the way. If you don't find your passion, no problem. You just start working somewhere and be very open. You have to be a sponge. You have to open your eyes and find out. And then if you need, you have to do a step back to find out, but look at your passion. That's really what you have to do.
Yeah.
And that schools should spend more time at finding the passion of the people instead of learning everything in a negative.
And hopefully we do that a little bit today for the students. Thierry, to finish that story, and then we get to the questions from the students because they're really eager. But so you had all these experiences, you had worked in various industries, you'd taken your English courses, and you had gone back, I believe, to leading a media company and reporting, let's say, or leading a team that was reporting about technology. And then that opportunity came, the opportunity to join this small startup challenger technology company that was named Google.
Yeah, and at the first call, I even refused because
wait, the first call? I mean, like, I'd love to work for Google. I didn't get a call from Google.
No, it was 2010. In 2010, Google was not what you know now, and it was leading a team of 10 people, and I was leading 500 people. And I was like, why should I? Why should I do that? And I was also earning less money, and I think money is not the most important. But I was like a bit bizarre to say we have to change. And then they called back, and that was like, oh wow, that's bizarre. I said no, and they calling back. And so I had quite a conversation with them, and then at a certain moment I found out that that was the thing to do. It was like I was 45 years old, and I was like signing for a young future, or being old in a media company because I was already working for 15 years there.
Yeah.
And so I did the jump, and it was not that obvious that it sounds now. And so you have to take risks on some moment, and also a younger company or a more riskful company.
I mean, if I understand correctly, Thierry, there's two things here. One is, don't necessarily go and look for the most shiny object when you're 25 and try to get in there. Don't try to work for Google now when you're 23. Well, maybe you'll say yes, because of course you work for Google. But don't look for that shiny object straight away. Wait a little bit to get some experiences in various industries, see what you really like. And two, you know, when that moment comes, realize that the shiny object today probably is not the shiny object of tomorrow or yesterday. Probably the next Google today is a company that we maybe know, maybe we don't know, but certainly it's not as big as Google and as known as Google.
I completely agree with what you say. It's looking for opportunities, change, and challenge yourself. Because when if you start for an amazing company, it's like a golden cage. You know, you receive some advantages, and you have a nice salary, and they promise you a promotion, and then you're stuck in a certain company. And if I was still on that media company today, I would be in trouble, because traditional media are really in trouble now. So
right.
I was in the an amazing office with a big car and an assistant and whatever, but it was the wrong choice. I would have been staying there. So challenge yourself all the time. Yeah. And if you want to work at Google, it's even better to have another experience before, because we prefer people that have a more experience than just students that came directly.
Because it's an enigma, isn't it? I mean, like, I think there's been books written about this topic, which is, how do you get a job at Google? So maybe instead of reading that book, you can just tell us, how do we get a job at Google?
You know, the first thing, you have to apply. It's amazing, but we don't have the right profiles that are applying to Google. So we have 2 million CVs, resumes that we receive every single year, but we hire very few of those. We have to call a lot of people. By example, in Belgium, we have a very hard time to have Belgians applying for Google, because when I ask Belgians, why did you apply? And they say, no, but, well, I will never succeed because it's Google. So no, I will not apply. So once again, if you want to go for Google, you have to apply, and you have to believe.
Where's the form? Where do we sign up? Where's the form?
Google.com/jobs. And for students, google.com/students, and then you can start with internships or with some online games, and then you can come on board.
So now this is maybe a good moment, Thierry, because there's so many questions from students, and maybe I want to bring in first Bart. Bart, who you will hear is in a very special place, and who's studying business sustainability management at EU. But he has actually one of those questions that pertains to both Google, but also a relationship to employees. So Bart, can you come in and maybe ask us your question?
Okay.
Hi, so my question is in terms of as you're a leader, right? So what kind of relationship should you have with your employees? For example, should it be like friendly, engaging, or professional, like keep your distance? And why do you think that is the right way? Thank you.
The relationship is very open, but it's not friendly. I'm still the responsible. I have to take the hard decisions sometimes. So, but it's very open. I stimulate feedback. I will have chats with all level of people around me. My door is open. They can just come by. And one day, a young guy for 25 years old came into my meeting, my desk after a meeting. And he told me, your meeting was crap. And it was quite surprising. You know, I'm 50, 25 years old, came and say my meeting was crap. And you know what? He was right. And I changed my meeting. And from that day on, the meetings went in another way. We're shorter, we're better. I'm not sure that you can do that in every single company, but at Google, we very appreciate that young people come and say what they think, because most of the time they're right. You're right. You see things. You are younger, more dynamic, more open to things. You don't have the experience sometimes, so you probably will need me if we have to meet a CEO for doing a sales. Will have to be there, but you have a lot of things that you know and observe, and so at Google we're very open on that. It's very nice to work thanks to that, because I'm in touch with a lot of young talented people.
Thank you for that answer. Bart, did you want to add anything to that?
I'm good, thank you.
And we'll see Bart in just a little bit, because Bart actually is right up here. I'm in Geneva, and Bart is in the 4th floor. We'll see in a little bit, we'll hear from somebody who's actually in Thailand, which is where Bart is from. So we're seeing the international game play out, let's say. But before we get to that question, Thierry, I see in the Q&A that some people are asking about people and how do you keep them motivated? I'd say mostly during this time. You know, Amrita is asking this, Peter Pellerito is asking this, you know, what do you do to keep motivated, people motivated if they're all in another place and very often they're alone at home, or they have around their family at home, but they're not around their colleagues?
So number one is, this is the first responsibility for all Google management. So our number one job is our people. That's so I can do fantastic business. If I cannot succeed in keeping my people motivated, I will be out, because that's the most valuable we have. So I spend a lot of time to get my people on board, reaching out to them, doing one-on-ones, to just connecting, asking how they are. We also ask our employees to think about themselves first in this time. And normally during working hours, you would imagine that they have to work for Google and connect on Google. We say no. For the moment, you are thinking about yourself, and you have to be in good shape, and coaching a lot on that. We have employees that could take 2 months leave if they had to take care of small children without any, just decided to do so. We had employees working half-time. We were very, very flexible in the way they were working.
Why are you flexible, Thierry? Because obviously that affects performance, you would think, and performance means bottom line. So why are you so flexible?
First of all, when we meet, we are more effective than ever before. So you will experience that, for example, I do this thing now. It will have taken me 1 hour. Normally, I would have traveled to Munich or to Geneva. We would have lunch before, we would have lunch after that, would be in the hotel. So something that would have taken me 1 hour now would have taken 1 day in a normal time. So
right.
We won as a company, we won a lot of efficiency, and we wanted to give back a part of that time. And also we need to do that, because if you do 8 hours work at the office, it's okay. But if you do 8 hours of full-time VC, you're exhausted.
It's true.
Because it's super, super intense, it's super effective. And so we have to learn to the people to disconnect, to have a meeting, go for a coffee, what they would do in a natural way in the office. They don't do that like that. And the other,
does that mean that old idea of the 40-hour work week and that work day that's 8 hours and you check in and you check out, that's now definitely completely gone?
That's over and out. You know, in the industrial world, you start to work because you enter the office space, which is completely stupid. You know, it's not because I'm at the office that I'm working. I can be chatting or sleeping, whatever. But in the industrial world, when you enter the office building, you start to work, and when you go out, you stop to work.
That's right.
So we believe in a work-life mix and not a work-life balance. So it's not working 40 hours and then having a nice life behind that. It's be able to mix that.
Now, so you're doing those things, Thierry, and sorry to interrupt you, but you're doing those things, of course, to maximize, let's say your human resource management, work with people, and also your performance. A question that people also have is, what does Google do for us, for other people? And for that, I want to bring in Katina Grigoraskas. I hope I said that right, Katina, who's in the US and would like you a question about that. No, who's not in the US? That's right. This is the big surprise. Katina, where are you?
Yes, hi, I'm calling from Thailand. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. My question is that as the world's most used search engine, how do you think that Google can help people through these difficult times caused by the pandemic and all of its negative effects, including unemployment and negative effects on the economy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Obviously, we will not solve it all, but I think we can help a lot, and that's what we're trying to do. First of all, on the search thing, the people are searching as crazy for their health on what is COVID, how can I relieve. So we have a lot of work with governments in all countries to get the right information on top of the searches, and also the right videos on YouTube so that the people can learn about their health and continue to do that. The second thing is that we help the people to work. Imagine this same crisis 20 years ago. It was impossible to see your grandparents because it would be impossible to chat with people that are in an elderly home. It would be impossible to work because video conferencing would not work. It would be impossible to learn. So we are on the backbone on all those stuff. We were the backbone, and that with amazing volumes that went through the roof, on which we earn most of the time no money. We only earn on advertising. So when you use all these things, most of the time we are not paid for that, and that's completely fine. We are profitable on the other side. But I think that's not enough because the economy has had a very, very hard hit. And so what we are doing now is the program is called Grow with Google, and we will start training massively people to digital and also show to companies how you can thrive in the digital world, and you can reduce your costs, you can be more efficient, you can find new customers. For an SME, you have 4 billion customers at one click, but the companies don't get that yet. And
Thierry,
so
question for the students. Yeah. If they want to benefit of the trainings that Google offers, is there a link they can go to, or is there anything they can search?
Yes, a lot of trainings that you can find online. I only have the link for Belgium, and it's g.co/atelier digital BE. I think with Atelier Digital, Digital Atelier, if you search for some words, you will find. But digital training for Google, there are programs in all the countries, and those programs go from very basic stuff. How do I make a website and I can be on Google on a free thing, to very complicated trainings on digital advertising.
Yeah, and that's obviously a big help for students. I want to ask you, why do you do that? And perhaps I can bring in Jimena Haderspock, who I think is in Bolivia then? You are in Bolivia, aren't you? And you had a question about Google's vision.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Mr. Geerts. It's a pleasure to be here today. What I wanted to ask you is, what is the future visions or goals of Google, and what are the long-term and short-term strategies that are taking Google a step closer towards these missions and goals?
So first of all, in a more general way, we believe in what we call ambient computing. We want to get rid of this. So if you think of your last 10 years, more and more stuff went done by your smartphone, but it's not very human. When you are the two of you in a restaurant, probably you have this smartphone in the way, and we want to get that out. And so we believe that everything that is connected to electricity can be making intelligence. So to Google Assistant can be building in a fridge, in a car, in a watch, so that you don't have to take your smartphone all the time. And so we believe that will be the next thing, and we invest a lot in all connected homes, connected devices, in Google Car, so that all this stuff can get out of the way, so like we can be more human, and that the technology around us is more useful to us. So we invest in that. Another thing is healthcare. We strongly believe that healthcare is very done in old-fashioned way for the moment. Healthcare is still waiting that you are sick and then trying to fix you, instead of being more, how can I keep you healthy? And we believe that artificial intelligence will have a huge impact on healthcare too. And there's the new part on which we're investing. In a general way, we became an artificial intelligence first company. So everything that we do is based on this amazing new technology, which is machine learning. And that is powering computing so hard that you can reimagine a new world with machine learning. And so on all our products today, we have machine learning. That's why Google Translate is working better. That's why you can find interesting content on YouTube. It's also the technology used for self-driving cars. And so in a way, machine learning is the technology that we use to make a better world.
Right. And I think we're all inspired by this vision, Thierry, but I also, and you were so kind enough to say, I want to talk about everything and also about taboos, because one of the questions that we got here twice now on the chat is, okay, so you have that digital world, that bright new world that you believe in and that you work on and you help people. On the other hand, you have to navigate the real world, which is a very messy world sometimes, including for geopolitics. So two people asked this question. How do you go about this? For example, there's an issue with how do you draw border maps? In the case that was mentioned was Palestine. And I'm sure that there's many other borders that you have to put something on Google Maps. Are you going to go with one, with the other? Different people have different opinions. Different countries have different opinions. How do you deal with that messy reality, let's say?
We do what we can, and sometimes it's very hard when two countries are in war and that the borders are not okay. We have quite issues on that. So, but Google will not solve the world. We can just try to make the world better, and we do our piece, and it will be only successful if everybody is doing that piece. And I think that's why I'm very afraid of populism. The only way to make a better world is to have governments that take that technology and do something good with it, but it's also controlling the technology. But you can have the best technology in the world if you don't have a democratic country, that can be being hard. So I'm afraid of populism. But if we don't have too many populism, I think that we have to be afraid of all technology. We don't have to be afraid of new technology. We have to be afraid of all technology, because the big mess that we see in the world today is because of industrial the industrial world before. The wars are based, for example, on people that have oil on their ground and people that don't have oil, and then they start to fight for the oil because all the industrial world is based on very scarce resources, and so the people are fighting for the resources. While with technology, the raw material is knowledge, so you don't have to fight for knowledge. The knowledge are people. So and you can duplicate knowledge without any problem. So I really believe that we can go for a new world, but I'm not sure that we will succeed to have that bright new world. It can go wrong, as it has been in the past. And I think the reason why I talk about that is because more people believe in that, more people will try to succeed, and more people will understand the risks and also work on those. And that's the only way that we can succeed. Google cannot do anything alone. We are depending on our users, we are depending on governments, we are depending on, and we try to follow all the rules in the world. And sometimes it's hard.
And of course, you have to sometimes decisions are made for you, aren't they? Because I remember that at some point Google China was quite a thing. It was being able to compete with local players, but then at some point you had to leave the market because it wasn't compatible anymore with what you thought was right. How do you see that going forward? These kinds of decisions that you have to make on, let's say, the ethics of your company versus the rules of a certain country.
I'm very proud that Google is a company that really takes its principle seriously, and that we went out of China at the moment that it was not possible to do business in the way that we believe in. I don't know is it right or wrong, but in the way that we believed in.
Because what happened is that you felt that you were compelled to do a certain data privacy that wasn't compatible with your view of data privacy.
We were hacked by the Chinese governments, and the people having a Gmail were not safe anymore on our platform, and so we had to get out. And I think that's really what we do, and we believe in democratic principles, and we are tied into that. And sometimes it's complicated. We are also a stock listed market company, so it's sometimes hard to make those choices, but we make them.
Yeah. Now, now you're faced also with certain demands from protesters, from groups in the US, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement. A question from Leo Johnson from the LGBTQ movement. He says they're asking, No, they're demanding that there is more diversity in the workplace, that there is more respect for all groups and all individuals. How does Google respond to that? Do you have any concrete plans? I mean, you talked about how you don't have the right people applying to Google. What will you do to make sure that that is the case in the countries where you operate?
You know, this new world based on digital technology will only succeed if it's for everyone. And if I say for everyone, it's really for everyone. We have only 4.5 billion people connected to the web. We have everyone to be connected to the web. And then if everyone is connected, it has to be fair for everyone. And so indeed, we were hit quite hard with the stories of George Floyd. And I will not give all the details now, it will be too long, but if there's one company in the world that did a lot of stuff to correct that. And so before that, I thought I'm not a racist at all. But we educated everyone at Google, and now we believe that it's not enough to not be a racist. You have to be actively against racism. So you have to really fight the errors of the past. It's the same thing.
What does that mean in practice? When you talk about hiring, you talk about HR, you talk about people in certain positions, because big tech, Silicon Valley is still pretty much, a group of let's call them white guys, isn't it?
We're one of the most diverse companies in the big tech. It's mainly a problem because we have a lot of engineers, and it's very hard to have diverse engineers. So the engineers are more white male, or very few women, for example. But in general, I think we have done a lot, and we have the diversity report that we're issuing since 5 years now. And so we are reporting to the world how diverse we are or not, so that we have also the control of the outside world on what we are doing.
Yeah.
So we really believe that we will only succeed. Google will only succeed if we have a diverse company. And we understand that it's not enough to hire in a diverse way. We have also to be inclusive and also to insert equity, because it's not to give the same money or the same chance to everyone. You have to make more chances to some people because they had not the chance to have the same indication. So you have to give them more possibility,
right,
than to others.
If we make that practical, Thierry, because of course there's a lot of students here today with very diverse backgrounds from all over the world with all kinds of characteristics. We got a question, for example, from Belén Panunzio, and she's asking, what are the characteristics that you're looking for when you're hiring for managers at Google?
We look for googly people, and that's a bit bizarre because it's hard to define, and that's why it's maybe hard to get hired, because we don't define exactly what we are looking for, because we are not looking that much on degrees, we are looking that much on what you have done on a resume, but we are looking at who you are, and we want to have good people, and that's what is good people, being really convinced about that diversity, being open to the world, but also having ambition to solve stuff. So I had last week an employee, somebody from another company applying to Google, and when I asked the person, what is your biggest achievement? It was, I got a contract for 1 million out of the pocket of a customer. I didn't hire the person. It was a brilliant candidate. He has on paper everything, but I don't want to hire people that are just here to take money out of the pocket of our customers.
Right.
We want to help our customers to succeed. We want to help our community to succeed. And therefore, we are ambitious and we have hard goals to attain. And you are surprised how few people that we try to hire have that right ambition. And also some.
Now those are big words, very hard to write down in a CV. Now Google, and somebody's asking this, by the way, how do you scan CVs? How do you do that? Do you do that manually, or do you have like computers to do that? And another person, Ayana Karieva, is asking, well, what are the key words that we need to use on our CV to show these characteristics?
Hiring is not a perfect science, and that's a pity. And probably we don't hire a lot of good people that we miss. So a lot of human review of CVs. What we want to see on a CV is a very diverse CV. If you are just on studying and you have the best degrees, it's not enough. We want to have things that you have done beside. You have climbed the Kilimanjaro. You have helped. You work for an ONG. You started a little company where you were young, you were a DG, and and then the languages will be important too, depending on the market on you want to work.
Right.
And we hope to have a CV when it's not the standard Microsoft Word documents.
I heard the word Kilimanjaro. That's the one I'm going to remember, Thierry.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, but I do want to put this question in front of you. I think it's maybe from someone you know. Johan Schotte is asking, how useful did you find the contribution of mentors along the way? And perhaps to end also with a final question, what is some advice that you could give? Imagine that you're our mentor to others that are starting that journey now.
No, it's definitely useful to be to have mentors. You know, I came from a medicine family. All my family is doctors or nurse or whatever. So I didn't know anything about business. And so even my study was just by a discussion with a friend of my brother that did an MBA and that told me what it was. And thanks to that, I started to do an MBA. So it's impressive how much impact you can have on life of people. And I can really define five to seven people that really define my career and maybe my life. And so
and for you, the best advice, what would you give?
Talk to a lot of people and be open, but I'm also talking to a lot of students and helping as much as I can, but never believe them completely. It's just input. You know, it's about you. Don't believe your mentor as a boss. It's just inputs. They're just like a mirror. And so talk to more people to have your own opinion. Never take the opinion of somebody else.
I think that's an absolutely wonderful advice, Thierry, to end our conversation with. We could have gone on forever. There's still a lot of questions. Maybe we'll have an opportunity, whether in real life or online, to ask them some other time. But for now, Thierry, a big thank you from me, a big thank you from the school, and a big thank you, I'm sure, from all the students who joined us here
today. Thank you
today.
for your time all, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Thierry. Over to you, Luc.
Bye.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Geerts, for this session. I think it's a beautiful session to end this series for the time being. We will take a small break for the rest of the summer. The Learning from Leaders series will resume in September, and we're already working on the list of leaders that we are interviewing. We'll have some great surprises for you coming in. In the meantime, I would like to thank everybody that has participated to those series. Especially thanks to you, Peter, for your interviews, for your insightful information, for relating the questions of our students. I would also like to thank the team that is behind the scene, that is helping us to prepare those series, because there is a lot of work behind that. And last but not least, I would like to thank all the speakers that have attended those series for the time being, and also you, the students, who made those events meaningful and who came up to ask the questions. Good luck as well to our students that are still having their exams tomorrow. Stay safe, everyone, and see you soon. Thank you very much.